SS General von Steuben was a German luxury passenger liner. She was launched as the München, renamed in 1930 as the General von Steuben, and renamed again in 1938 as Steuben. On 10 February 1945 the liner was torpedoed by the Soviet submarine S-13 during Operation Hannibal and sank, sending 4,000 people to their deaths. Early history. In 1923, the München was the first German transatlantic passenger liner both to be launched and to enter New York Harbor. Since the end of World War I, she arrived in July 1923 on her maiden transatlantic voyage. 1930 fire and sinking. On the 11th of February 1930, after docking and discharging passengers and most of her crew from a voyage from Bremen, Germany, a fire broke out in a paint locker which quickly spread to another storage hold. The massive fire and explosion resulted in a 5-alarm fire with all fire equipment in New York City being sent to the burning ship. The fire could not be controlled and it sank next to the wharf it was docking at. In one of the largest shipping salvage efforts of its time, München was raised, towed to a dry dock, repaired, and returned to service. Shortly afterwards the ship's owner renamed her General von Steuben. World War II. She was commissioned in 1939 as a Kriegsmarine accommodation ship. In 1944 she was pressed into service as an armed transport ship, taking German troops to eastern Baltic ports and returning wounded troops to Kiel. Operation Hannibal along with the Wilhelm Gustloff and many other vessels. She was part of the largest evacuation by sea in modern times. This evacuation surpassed the British retreat at Dunkirk in both the size of the operation and the number of people evacuated. By early January 1945, Gross Admiral Karl Donitz realized that Germany was soon to be defeated. Wishing to save his submariners, he radio-decoded message on 23 January 1945 to the Baltic Sea port Gotenhafen to evacuate to the west under the codename Operation Hannibal. Submariners were then schooled and housed in ships lying in the Baltic ports, with most of them at Gotenhafen. Among them were the Deutschland, the Hamburg, the Hansa, and the Wilhelm Gustloff. This justified the rationale behind Donitz's decision to mount Operation Hannibal. Notwithstanding the losses suffered during the operation, the fact remains that over 2 million people were evacuated ahead of the Soviet Army's advance into East Prussia and Danzig. Evacuation. In the winter of 1945, East Prussian refugees headed west, away from the city of Königsberg and ahead of the Soviet Army's advance into the Baltic states and East Prussia. These refugees and thousands like them fled to the Baltic seaport at Pilor, hoping to board ships that would carry them to the relative safety of Western Germany. The Steuben was in the fleet of ships sent for the purpose. Final voyage on 9 February 1945, the 14,660-ton liner sailed from Pilor in the Bay of Danzig for Swinemünde. On board were 2,800 wounded German soldiers, 800 civilians, 100 returning soldiers, 270 Navy medical personnel, 12 nurses from Pilor, 64 crew for the ship's anti-aircraft guns, 61 naval personnel, radio operators, signal men, machine operators, and administrators, and 160 merchant navy crewmen. A total of 4,267 people. Just after midnight, 2 torpedoes from the Soviet submarine S-13 hit the Steuben. According to survivors, she sank within about 20 minutes. Between 3,000 and 4,000 people were killed in the sinking. About 300 survivors were saved by torpedo boat T-196 and brought to Kolberg. Wreck. The wreck was found and identified in May 2004 by Polish Navy hydrographical vessel ORP Arktowski. Pictures and graphics appear in a 2005 article in National Geographic. The wreck lies on her port side at about 70 meters depth, and the hull reaches up to 50 meters depth. The ship is mainly intact.